Alright, YouTube, I am in the middle of an actual sort of redesign of where I'm recording. Not the actual location, but the setup in this actual room, so this is provisional at the moment. There's going to be some redecorating going on, it's going to be great. But you may have seen California, which formerly was known as California, that didn't believe in states' rights, didn't believe in really any rights for anybody other than the right to get a lot of welfare, finally has embraced the 10th Amendment. It's actually funny to see. See, now that the president is Trump and he's saying he's actually going to tackle the immigration issue, all of a sudden California realizes what, a whole slew of states realized before, which is, oh, the federal government isn't supreme in every fucking endeavor. Now, it's funny because even a few years ago, you remember, people like Jerry Brown and all of their ilk were chastising states that tried to stand in the way of Obama's amnesty proposal, which, by the way, was ruled unconstitutional, among other things related to immigration, anything related to gun control, anything related to protest, certain taxes, certain regulations. The states have been battling Obama constantly. Now that Trump is in office, and he happens to be a white and Republican as opposed to black and a Democrat, they vowed that they're going to do what Texas has been doing, especially for the last 8 years, and battle the federal government on its proposals. The problem being, these same people that would be dragging them through court have a laundry list of quotes dating back half a decade where they attack other states for the very concept that they're allowed to stand in the way of anything the federal government happens to do. And this is the perennial problem of the two-party sort of football team system. It's what I've criticized so much. You have a Republican president. All the Republican states sit down, shut up, and say that no state has the right to stand in the way of a federal program, a federal law, or anything like that. You have a Democratic president. The blue states do the same thing. Therefore, you have the problem where the states unknowingly, I think, have actually continuously given up their power under the 10th Amendment over and over again, and Congress has done this too. Let's face it. When Congress allowed George W. Bush to go into all of these countries he decided to go into without a formal declaration of war on any actual state actor, Congress ceded one of its important constitutional authorities to the executive branch. They're now trying to put the genie back into the bottle. We've seen this. This isn't the first time in the last month that we've seen this, by the way. You remember they were posting about a few weeks ago, I think it was, before the fake news stuff and the Mo Russia stuff gained dominance. Their main line of attack was, we need to immediately begin, before Trump takes office, we must dismantle the domestic surveillance program. We must temper the drone program. We must limit the federal government as much as possible. It's very funny to see people of political ideologies that held absolute federal supremacy, number one, and often executive supremacy, number two, for the last 8 years. All of a sudden they're saying, no, it's congressional supremacy, number one, especially, the parties that aren't in power somehow, and state supremacy. It's very funny to see California as the bulwark against any Trump policies that he tries to impose. Now, I will say this on the immigration issue. I've had to say it loud and clear a number of times because some people will call you a bigot if you propose that you do so much as delineate where your border is. If you believe in borders at all, you're a virulent fucking Nazi skinhead or something like that. Which isn't true. That's just a bunch of hyperbole. It's just a whole lot about nothing. And some people, if you proclaim that you don't agree with simply kicking absolutely everybody out who hasn't gone through the regular screening process, no holds barred, house-to-house searches with federal agents in the United States Army, and just literally push them out on the streets, round them up into rail carts and dump them across some border, that you're a cuck or that you're a left-winger or something like that. It's funny because you have these two fringes. Neither of them realizes that their proposals are non-working, that they actually can't be accomplished. The left can't get its way on immigration. You can't simply erase your national border, or literally, Trump is fundamentally correct when he says this, you will not have a country. It won't exist anymore. There will be no rule of law. Things would begin to break down. When people on the alt-right say we're going to deport 14 million people, I chuckle and I ask them if they think that the United States government should unilaterally suspend the U.S. Constitution, because that's what would be required to actually accomplish such a gargantuan task. It's easy to remove those who have committed crimes well here, because a lot of them are in the system. Now, under Obama, he hasn't deported most of those people. Unless in some cases, these people have committed manslaughter, they've committed rape, they've committed all sorts of drug dealing and so forth, and they haven't been deported. They go to prison for a very short time. They often get released through the revolving door process because of prison overcrowding, right back out on the streets. They're not even washed out. They disappear back into the crowd. Obama is guilty of one of the worst crimes of lack of oversight of any modern president on this issue. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be possible to round up 14 million people. It's easy enough to round up 2 or 3 million people and kick them out, because that's the proportion that have actually committed substantial enough crimes to be in the system well here. Yeah, kick them back out. And California has chosen exactly the wrong fight to stand on. If California were to say, we're going to go against the federal government on drug law, we're going to start decriminalizing things, and we're not going to enforce any state-level laws on these, and sue the federal government if their own agents get involved, that's something that would be presumably popular. They could solve a problem, they could actually save money, and they could potentially forge a constitutional trail to get the federal government back into the proper role that it was meant to be in, which has nothing to do with moral laws or anything like that. Drug war would be related to that. Solve the prison overcrowding problem. Other states would begin to back them on that. You see this with marijuana right now. A whole slew of states have or soon will legalize marijuana. It's no longer possible for the federal government. It doesn't have the resources under any circumstances to actually crack down on all of these states. It doesn't have the resources without state help to actually pursue charges on the federal level against anyone in these states. It's a lost cause. The drug war has begun to die. It's going to die off quicker and quicker. We'll see the end of it within our lifetime. Thank goodness. It's about fucking time. But California chooses, of all things, to stand on sanctuary cities. We're not just going to have sanctuary cities. We're going to be a sanctuary state. We won't let the federal government deport anyone in our state. You're telling the people of your state that you're comfortable with the fact that there are probably several 100,000 violent felons. I'm not talking about, Jose over there, he smoked weed. He went to prison overnight. Yeah, we should deport him. I don't care about that. I don't care if Jose smokes a joint. But what if he poleaxed somebody in the back of the head during a drunken bar fight? What if he raped his underage girlfriend or something like that? These things happen, and the state of California's response is, we're keeping him here. For why? Why would you want that sort of scum in your state? So I don't think this is going to be very popular for very long. I think what's actually going to happen is that in other parts of the country, when people realize Trump is deporting criminals and putting everybody else back through a revolving system back in the queue to actually gain citizenship while granting temporary, not amnesty, but some sort of conditional residence, don't commit any crimes while you're here. California is going to look a cunt when people realize that. Because they're trying to whip people up into a frenzy and say, oh, Trump's a Nazi, he's the next Adolf Hitler, he's going to start deporting every black person, every Hispanic, every Asian. Pretty soon he'll just have a white Reich or something like that. Like he's a literal skinhead. He's a New York Democrat. Donald Trump is barely even a marginal Republican on most issues, other than maybe fiscal conservatism and the tax code. Other than that, you can relax. He's not coming for all of your wonderful minority groups out in California. It's not going to happen. Then you have, even funnier, you have these some tens of thousands of people in California saying, oh, we'll secede from the Union. And these people are like, they're far left. That's funny. A few years ago when the Texans were talking about, oh, maybe we should secede because we can't deal with Obama's immigration crap anymore. It was on the exact same issue, only the other side. You ranted loud and long about how it was treason and how those people should be rounded up and shot. Well, why don't you aim that logic at yourselves? Why don't you go jump into the Pacific Ocean holding a 50-pound boulder or something like that? That's what I think should be done to these people. It's retarded. It's not going to happen, number one. California, for all of its economic might, is completely reliant upon the surrounding states to feed it water, to buy its goods. California wouldn't exist as a sovereign nation. Wouldn't be possible. At any given time, it could be wiped out by a single earthquake anyway. Texas would be far more able to survive as a sovereign nation. Not saying that that should be supported either. There shouldn't be any secession. That's why, by the way, we have an electoral college. Look at the map of who voted what. Relatively few areas in this country voted for Hillary Clinton. Those that did just happen to have highly concentrated populations. The idea of holding a nation together requires an electoral college. Otherwise, all of those rural states, eventually, their social alienation level would be so high they would secede. And there wouldn't be a whole damn lot that the urban areas could do about it, because they have fewer guns, they have fewer productivity areas as far as growing crops, mines, things of that nature, fuel, certainly. New York City, how is it going to feed itself? How is it going to fuel itself? It'd be starved out within a month. So therein lies your problem. It's not going to happen. There will be no California secession. Jerry Brown is an idiot. He's standing on the wrong issue for the wrong reasons, and he's going to look real dumb when Trump actually gets into office. Years later, we'll be remembering how he was nothing more than a fearmonger. Honestly, all these people saying Trump is uber scary Hitler and not realizing what he actually believes in, they're all going to look pretty damn stupid in a couple of years. By the midterms, certainly. They're going to look so foolish, it's going to be hilarious. And I'll say, told you so. A lot of others will. The legacy media is the one driving it. Oh, Trump will do this, Trump will do that, Trump will start a nuclear war, Trump will start a war with China, Trump will start a war with North Korea, Trump will take all your freedoms away. What freedoms? You mean the ones that Obama left intact? Well, thanks, Uncle Sam. If he just reforms the tax code in a way that he's already discussed doing so, he's going to be a popular president, as long as war doesn't break out. I don't think he'll bother pursuing war, by the way. I think he's going to use our economic might to bully other nations around if they're pissing us off. China, take heed. Russia would be left alone. I'd probably end the embargo on Russia and go after China instead, which is probably a good idea. By the way, as a quick aside here, did you notice how funny it was that yesterday everyone was rambling about how evil the Russians were? Meanwhile, the Chinese decided to just lift up a scientific unmanned submersible randomly and hold it and not give it back right away to try to shame our nation. And we had to issue a formal complaint about it and say, we demand the return of our scientific sub that's used for military purposes. Yeah, can you imagine what would have happened if Russia had been the one doing that? The legacy media would have gone into hyperdrive talking about how it was, the eve of World War III. China does it, and they want to ignore it. Who do you think is paying them off? It's not the Russians, that's for sure. That's about all. Peace out.